Okay, we're going to get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Pride panel with NASRA, Harley Morman, and Cedar Tea. We also have Don Carter from the Edmonton Pride Centre, our community partner for this program. My name is Michael Magnuson. I am the new Public Program and Outreach Coordinator at the Art Gallery of Alberta. To start this program, I would like to do a land acknowledgement. We are currently broadcasting from Edmonton, which is on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional lands of diverse Indigenous peoples, including the Cree, Blackfoot, Métis, Nakota Sioux, Iroquois, Dene, Inuit, Ojibwe, Saulteaux, and Anishinaabe. We acknowledge and extend gratitude to the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit whose footsteps have marked these lands for generations and who continue to call this place home today. June is Pride Month, and to mark the occasion, we have invited 3 artists to discuss their art practice and their work on display at the Art Gallery of Alberta. NASRA and Cedar Tea are both showing video works on the screens of our brand new Sidewalk Cinema, which is currently on display on the street-facing screen. And you can check that out now. The screens run from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. We also have Harley Morman, who will display their artwork in our RBC New Work Gallery in the fall. Each artist will introduce their practice, and then we will start a panel discussion as a group. At the end of the program, there will be a few moments for a Q&A. So if you have any questions for a Q&A, please use the Q&A function, and we will try to answer them at the end. Before we get started, I want to thank our sponsors. Our AGA Live digital programs are made possible in part through support from the Heart and Soul Fund by EPCOR. I would also like to thank the Canada Council for the Arts who support our digital programs. Okay, now I would like to introduce Don Carter from the Pride Centre, who was invited here to speak about some of the great work they are doing in the community. So take away, Don.
So hello, my name is Don Carter and I'm the Executive Director of the Price Centre of Edmonton. So thank you all for coming to this special event, and thank you to the AGA and their partners and sponsors. Thank you to the AGA for reaching out to us to partner on something truly remarkable for Pride Month. So this year, the Pride Centre has gone virtual, and we wanted to help bring the community together since we can't have a full-on celebration in person. And we also felt it was our opportunity to talk about the centre and what we do. So the Pride Centre enriches and improves the lives of 2S LGBTQ+ people, their allies, and the broader community in the greater Edmonton area with our programs and services. And we maintain a safe space that welcomes everyone who walks through our doors. And as we say, it's always Pride at the Pride Centre because we serve our communities and our allies all year long. We offer educational workshops and classes for businesses, organizations, and groups. We offer free volunteer-run community programming. And while most of that programming is on hiatus right now because of COVID-19 restrictions, we've been able to run our core programming for the last year and a half, which is still continuing. And these things include our Queer Out for Youth on Wednesday nights. It's for queer and gender diverse youth, ages 13 to 24. On Thursday nights, we have our LGBT newcomer group with the Edmonton Mennonite Center for Newcomers Settlement Practitioner. We have GSA roundtables every third Thursday of the month. We have free counseling sessions on Tuesdays and Thursdays in partnership with the Family Center. We also have a binder exchange program, which provides folks in Edmonton with free binders as gender-affirming undergarments. And what are we working on now? So we're under renovations. So we're not quite yet to fully open our doors. We're renovating our space to make it more accessible to community members and partners. We're working on strengthening our organizational foundations, as many of our team members are quite new to the center. We're working hard to be a truly inclusive, anti-racist, anti-oppressive organization focused on a zero harm reduction approach in our work. And we've also made an effort to put community first by ramping up our social media presence, sending out community surveys, and strengthening our relationships with our community partners. So please stay tuned for our final events for Pride Month. So tomorrow night, we will be partnering with Metro Cinema to screen the NFB short film, I Am Gay, with the full feature film, Pariah. And on June the 30th for Queer Out, Lady Tenderflake will be giving an amazing drag performance. So just to finish up, I encourage all of you to be a part of the Pride Centre family. To learn more about us, please visit our website at pridecenterofedmonton.ca. Join our mailing list and follow us on Instagram at Yeg Pride Center, on Facebook at Yeg Pride, and on Twitter at Yeg Pride. So on that note, it is my pleasure to introduce a friend of mine who I have just been able to witness in this wonderful transformation over the last few years. So it is my great, deep pleasure to introduce the artist NASRA.
Wow. Did y'all feel that? Y'all felt that from Dawn, huh? Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all the work that you're doing. And I'm really happy to be here virtually, digitally. As was said, my name is NASRA. It's a soft S, soft. And I come from the beautiful, fertile lands of Oromia, which is native to my people, the Oromo people, and the Somali people. It is colonially known as Ethiopia. And everything I am as a poet, everything I am as a person, it has to do with the earth that I come from. And some of the photos that y'all are seeing come from a piece that I'll be talking about in a little bit that is showing at the AGA's Sidewalk Cinema called Shay, which is about my home and how I have managed to carry her with me. And even though I was born and bred on what is colonially known as Canada, I am from Alberta, from Ontario, and everywhere that I have been makes its way into the art that I make as a theater practitioner, maker and creator of worlds and spaces for Black and Brown imagination to flourish. I'm very invested in the queerness of the everyday, the ways that we relate to each other, that push up against the challenge, that burn, that destroy, that lovingly call in the structures we have of violence. I'm really interested in the way that Black Indigenous people all over the world hold strong and hold soft at the same time. I am the big papa to a festival that has been running for the last 4 years called Black Arts Matter. And I'm very grateful to that space. It is transforming, just as I am, just as a lot of us are, into more of a platform. But we're taking our time. I also have been making a lot of music lately. This piece, Shay, in this picture, you see the beautiful Imani Khalifa, a gorgeous drag queen, who comes from my lands. This piece is on an album that came out almost a year ago, which y'all can check out on Bandcamp. I will have my links. But every song on the album is named after a medicine, an earth medicine, an herb, plant. And so you can get to know me in a little bit of my personal ins and outs, the growth that I've gone through over the last 4 or 5 years as an artist, as a human person, through that piece of work. And I'm really excited that it's out in the world. I am also very dedicated to spiritual and creative facilitation. So I have been working very deeply in understanding the connections to spiritual wellness and emotional wellness and mental wellness, and art, and how they are intrinsic. You can see this this picture of a little baby getting her hair done by her mom's. This is the kind of art I believe in, and I am really grateful to be queer and to be here and to be able to share my voice in as many languages that it comes, as, again, a theater artist, as a musician, as a poet, um, as a lover of Imani. These photos distracting. But I guess the last thing that I would like to let y'all in on is, yes, that's the album cover, is a newer piece called DNA Play that will be showcasing next season, next year, under the Riser program at Common Ground Arts, another fire Albertan initiative that is making room for me to explore movement and explore ritual and explore my DNA, allows me to play in my DNA, and see what kind of messages need to be unearthed and how I can fit them in or how they can be witnessed as a part of the Albertan narrative around what art is here. So that's that on me. Y'all gonna hear about me later. But please check out Salve, the album. It is an offering to anyone that needs healing during this time. And I'm very excited to be part of this conversation. And the next artist that y'all will get to experience is the wonderful, wonderful Harley Morman. And I will let you take it away.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, NASRA. Those photos were so beautiful and I can't wait to hear more about them. So my talk, I'm gonna talk a little bit, probably more formally because I won't be able to help myself because I'm reading here. I need to admit it. But I'm Harley Morman. I'm a queer and trans visual artist. I grew up in a tiny little town along the Minnesota River called Franklin on what was traditional Dakota land. And my parents were settlers from French and German parents. I immigrated to Canada after I finished high school, immediately, as fast as I could, back in 1997, and spent about 15 years in Saskatoon before coming to Alberta. I'm based in Lethbridge now, and I'm in my 4th year, which seems wild, of a PhD program in social, cultural, and political thought, which is basically like a multidisciplinary theory program. So I'll say a little bit about my art, and I'll talk about a few things specifically, and maybe at the very end I'll give like a little preview, depending on how it goes, of what I'm going to be showing at the AGA. So using interactive play and materials drawn from childhood's archives, my work attempts to propose new ways of moving through social and physical space. It wrestles with questions of belonging and socialization into the circles and communities that people choose to become a part of, whether they're professional communities, artistic communities like the art community, the queer community, or other identity-based communities. So how does a person become recognized by their peers as belonging? And how is that belonging shaped by the institutions and communicative structures that we rub up against in trying to become a part? Sometimes my work thinks it's trying to offer kind of provisional answers or suggestions about this, but mostly I think of it as like trying to ask a bunch of questions and be kind of unsettling and disruptive. Oh, thank you. There's the next image. Okay, so I've used a lot of materials in my work. I'm not like a painter or a sculptor in that I'm drawn to specific materials, but I use whatever, I'm a conceptual artist in that I use whatever I need to in order to get across whatever I'm trying to communicate. So that has included recently, in the past few years, digital photography and video, lenticular images, fused beads and other plastics, adhesive vinyl, which I really love, games, and institutions themselves. It's often funny, like cheeky, really colorful most of the time, and maximalist, and text figures really prominently in my work. The first image was from a series called Art Party, which was portraits of queer, there it is, portraits of queer and trans performance artists. And these three are part of the series of, I think there were 9 or 10 total. Those are approximately, they're slightly smaller than life size, with the hankies. So, oops, can you go back to oh yeah, where we're going, we don't need roads. This was part of a public commission that I did, I guess in 2017, with the roads department in Calgary. And that quote is, of course, the like well-known last line of Back to the Future. So I love wordplay and puns and gossip and like insinuation, and text and ambiguity is really important in my practice. Oh yeah, you can, okay, so perfect. So I want to say in my practice, I use a lot of materials and styles that are drawn from like the archive of the past of childhood, but certainly like vintage and retro looking stuff. I like rarely use like traditional high art materials, and I really am compelled by the nostalgic toys and materials and supplies that are available that wouldn't necessarily always be considered art, but that one might encounter. And this is like a purposeful strategy in my practice to use play to talk accessibly to lots of people about political and like theoretical issues without like people necessarily thinking that they're being lectured to, or like it's not like it's less didactic. If it looks fun, people will go for it, and then I hit them with a message. So because yeah. Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna say, so I really like the play, and I want my art to feel like play. Because children's playtime is the way that they really make sense of the world, and cope with anxieties about the world and about growing up. And a lot of my work kind of is like, also it incorporates an element of anxiety, either like social anxiety or generalized anxiety that you don't know quite where it's coming from, but it feels kind of not right, even though it is very colorful and it looks like it should be super fun, but also there's like, it's a little bit like scary at the same way. And this show that I'm going to be putting up in the RBC Gallery in October is a really good example of this. So it's called what is it called? Oh God, I'm forgetting. It's called Let's Do the Time Warp Again. And there's some images from it. They're from the studio that I work in printmaking at the university. So During my MFA a few years ago, I had the facilities and the equipment to work with lenticular images. Now, everyone has seen lenticular images, although you probably don't know like that they are called that. It's a bit of a technical word, but they're the images that use rows of cylindrical lenses to refract a different image to each eye, and they can do a couple different things, either three-dimensional images or flipping back and forth. So like they're like analog animated GIFs, and they're often used in like children's toys and religious iconography and lots of advertising, stuff uses them, and they're really considered like a novelty item. Because they're made of plastic. They're often not very good quality. They're like throwaway items, but I like to use it as a craft material because in my MFA I got entranced by lenticular stuff in all sorts of ways. Because of their changeability. And I thought, heck, this material is just right for for metaphor. Yeah, because their changeability, because their like back and forthness is produced by a body and its specific position in relation to the image. When you sway back and forth, you take just like a jump to the left, it looks completely different, and you're seeing something else. And because that back and forth is always there, they always kind of hold within them the promise of transforming to something else with just like a little bit of movement. And that's kind of really what I'm going to be playing with. Yeah, the image before, oh yeah, there it is. So this is one of the images from Let's Do the Time Warp Again. And you can see this is the most trans body of work I've ever made, but it's hard to see. I apologize so much for the photo quality. I just took it on my phone the other day because I'm like, oh, I really want to show something from the show, but this is one of the images, and they'll be shown eventually in light boxes. But in this component of the show, I'm taking school portraits of myself, one each from grade 5 through grade 12, and juxtaposing them with contemporary portraits that were taken by a professional photographer. So I combine them in different ways, and the work, when you see it like eventually, is much brighter and more colorful, but you can kind of get their lenticular images are really hard to document in photographs. It's actually easiest to document them with animated GIFs. So I use a lot of GIFs, but yeah, anyway. That's probably all I should say at the moment. I think I've been talking for too long, and I want to move into Cedar tea. Thank you. Cedar?
Can you hear me?
Oh, now I can hear you and see you. Thank you.
Okay, cool, thanks. That's a kakniyo nuwagumaga na spirit little cloud awikuan ikwamaga Cedar wildcat nitsigasan unitsigis kwapuna kutinia egwamaga awigi animus kutsi waskaikanik. Greetings, relatives, all my relations. Yeah, I'm Cedar Wildcat, originally from Satellite Cree Nation, which is about 90 minutes in the northeast of Edmonton. And I'm really happy to be a part of this panel as one of Alberta's emerging artists, so to speak. What you're seeing is one of my works that I've compiled numerous videos because of the pandemic over the past year. I emerged into the local drag scene in February 2020, a month before the height of the pandemic. So I really only got to perform on stage in the past 15 months 3 times. and most of my works are on my Vimeo page, which the public can access. Maybe they'll share the link, hopefully. But yeah, I actually, one of my more recent works is I collaborated with Fruit Loop and Jasper Pride. It was a really amazing experience to be able to go and perform out in the mountains and bring to you like a virtual experience in collaboration with other amazing individuals who do work in the community. So how I came into the drag scene was traveling across North America. When I first went to a Two-Spirit gathering in Beauséjour, Manitoba, where the word Two-Spirit was coined. You know, I met other people like me who were embracing their femininity, and it was an outlet for me to express my own gender fluidity and really embrace the divine feminine energy and reconnect to my ancestral grandmothers, I like to say. So that's been a part of my healing journey, which, you know, has helped me to become more of a whole person, right? Being able to accept all of me unapologetically and sharing that with the world. I mean, I never would I thought I would be doing this, but it's like a dream come true, and it happened so quickly. I mean, the power of prayer and manifestation comes through in these works of art. Like, I've been so busy, I haven't even had the chance to take a stroll downtown to go check out the Sidewalk Cinema, but this video was featured on the 22nd all day, and I'm really glad to be able to, yeah, share that on social media. So other aspects of myself are, you know, I have a drag mother. Her name is Spirit Wildcat, and she hails from Fort Hall, Idaho. She's from the Shoshone-Bannock tribe, and I met her at the 23rd Montana Two-Spirit Gathering, which is just in the state below the border of Alberta, at some sort of flathead lake. And she took me under her wing. You know, she guided me and taught me how to conduct myself, you know, spreading a good message in the numbers that I perform, really creating that Two-Spirit visibility within the mainstream community here. And so that's what I that's what I had in mind when I stepped in to the local drag scene, to continue raising the visibility that the pioneers and trailblazers had already set before me. Like, for example, my relative, James McCocus, and Richard Jenkins, Warren Winnipeg, Elder Ed LaValle, and really finding my own tribe. The Indigidrag Troupe, which there's actually an event happening this Saturday, the Edmonton Two-Spirit Society is hosting at the Legislature. Are we still good? Can I get a thumbs up or something? I'll just keep talking. I see that we're good to go. So further to that, I found my own tribe. I found my own cookum here, which is my grandmother, because I already have a drag mother, the legendary LaDonna Cree, who's been in the scene for the past 30 years now. And, you know, we both walk the path of recovery, or we sometimes say Sweetgrass Trail or Red Road, which just basically means we live a balanced, holistic, healthy lifestyle by refraining from the use of like illegal substances, drugs and alcohol. Because for a time there, about 3 or 4 years ago, my life was so wrapped up in living that lifestyle. And part of my healing journey was, you know, looking to her for guidance and working together, building a bond, creating relationships with other Two-Spirit, Indigenous, queer, local drag queens. And so we're going to be able to celebrate that kind of that family, those relations with each other. And Janice Irwin will be there. This was actually last June, almost a year ago. And what I do is collaboration. with other Indigenous local artists like makeup artists, hairstylists, videographers, photographers. That's kind of my focus, is to work with other people of marginalized intersectionalities and identities so that we can promote each other's work. And, you know, that's what I'm about as a drag queen. I come in here with creating my own narrative of how I would like to express myself and build my own brand. And, you know, that's why I have the last name T, which is for truth, so that I'm able to live it, to live my own truth and to be able to express that. Because typically in drag culture, you know, spilling tea can also be perceived as gossiping or having a kiki with other drag queens. And I found, like, in the drag scene, sometimes there's a little bit of competitiveness, and I really don't want to engage in that. I'd rather, you know, focus on kindness, compassion, and continuing to, you know, work, slay the house down with the girls in the parks, you know, when we can. So I think that's about as much as I can say for now. So I'll pass it back to the moderator. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Cedar, and thank you so much to all the panelists. I'm going to ask everyone to come back on screen, and also big shout out to the Pride Centre of Edmonton. It's been so great working with you, and we have some awesome projects planned for the future. So thank you so much, Dawn. It's been lovely to have you, and looking forward to working together again. So now we are entering the lovely moderated discussion that I have planned. So thanks again to everyone. I have a couple questions. Feel free to bounce around, you know, respond to each other. It's time for you to say what's on your mind. So one of my first questions, you know, this is a Pride panel. How has the queer, trans, and two-spirit community affected and changed your artwork? Does anyone have any thoughts about that? NASRA, I feel like you have something to say.
Like all of them. I think something that I was hearing from everyone in some way, shape, or form, I feel, is just the relationship to fluidity and the permission to transform ourselves and what we even view as possible. I know for me, my art is my first language, and it's the first language of so many cultures that have been actively destroyed. and I think coming back to just the inherent nature of what it means for me to be a Black person, for what it means for me to be a trans non-binary person, and for me to be an artist, they all have this kind of, they all give me the same kind of permission to choose what space I occupy and what kind of world I want to live in. And being able to choose sometimes feels like the ultimate freedom for someone who the world is constantly saying, like, no, those things don't go together. You can't be Muslim and be this and be that. Like, those things don't, the math doesn't math. And yet I am here. So my art, in the same way, like, allows, like, I have a voice to sing. Like, that just came with the package. So I don't know why we're contesting. And then it allows me to then just choose what I want to do with that voice. And I'm grateful for art in that way and for queerness in that way.
Cool. Yeah, that's amazing. I can't wait to check out your album. I haven't listened to it yet, but I am gonna get it so soon after this. Cedar, Harley, do you have anything to add to that question? Anything that pops up in your mind?
I can go. I have a lot to say about that. Well, as a young emerging artist and as a young person in general, from the time I came out, oh geez, when I came out, 14 was actually really young to come out at the time. I know it's not anymore, but I was like completely entranced by the queer community and like really like surrounded myself purposely with like literally glittery maximalist queerness, which was not at all like what I was like surrounded by at home. And so it definitely like highly influenced my aesthetic and what I see as friendly and desirable, and like changed the way I think about the audience for my work and what accessibility means. And certainly, like I know volunteering and working in the queer community has taught me most of the practical and critical skills that I have come to use in my practice and in my, like any job that I've had outside being a visual artist too.
Cool. That's awesome. And Cedar, you mentioned the community a little bit in your video. So I know this response a little bit, but do you have anything to add?
Can you repeat the question, please?
So it's the question is all about how does the queer, trans, and two-spirit community influence your artwork?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So I think I'll take this as an opportunity to uplift other artists across North America, different two-spirit people in their traditional territories. So for example, there's the Geo Neptune Softoma from Maine, who is actually listed one of the top 50 people under 50 in Maine or something like that. And then there's also my Auntie Land O'Lakes in San Francisco, who's been working with their local two-spirit group in the Bay Area there for numerous years. And of course, my drag mother in Fort Hall, Idaho, you know, there's the drag queen. She's an indigenous Navajo queen in Arizona, Shug Dela Cruz, and she made an appearance on the season finale of We're Here HBO series. And also like Jaylene Time out in Vancouver, all these new different queens, you know, collaborating, working together, even throughout the pandemic, to serve deadly videos. I think also it's not just other artists, it's, you know, ceremony and traditions that highly influence how I would like to present. For me, presenting my indigeneity and affirming that is very important to me, just because I know that the visibility is important, and I think pass it on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's awesome, Cedar. Lots of things to think about, and I wrote a couple names down. I'll definitely check them out. I encourage everyone to check out any of the names that Cedar mentioned, and, you know, check out Cedar at their next performances. Truly show-stopping stuff. So we're going to move on to our next question, and our next question is, I feel like Alex Trebek a little bit. As an artist, what advice do you have for other queer, trans, and two-spirit creatives struggling to navigate making artwork at this time? And I kind of pose this question as someone, I'm an artist myself. I really struggled, and I still struggle making art during the pandemic, making art in this climate. So all three of you are creating work and creating community. Do you have any thoughts about this?
I can go. I'll go. Well, first of all, I want to say, yes, I have been struggling. I've been struggling hard with motivation and with isolation. I think like the same as everyone else has been. And what I found is that the like struggles that have happened during the pandemic have made it like more obvious to tell what's really important to me and what I still feel passionate about and what I just like gave up as soon as lockdown happened and I didn't have to do it, like could just let go of. So I would say like make art that compels you because of the material or because of the subject matter. Even if you don't know why, if you feel like you need to do it, just do it and you'll like figure it out later. I feel like our subconsciouses are really good at helping us with art, and that's like, I think the best thing. And also, I want to say, can I say something else?
Yeah.
I want to say, I don't want to hog, but I feel like our experiences, our individual experiences, are actually really valuable and relevant to other people. And just saying, saying what we are going through and what we're feeling helps a lot, because people come to identify with things because of their specificities and like their little weirdnesses rather than despite them. So like, go for it. Yeah, don't hide yourself.
Awesome, awesome. NASRA or Cedar, do you have anything to add?
I think I just want to second that. Don't hide yourself from yourself.
Yeah.
I was reflecting on that today, and honestly over the last couple months, in remembering that my art primarily at first, before I had any identity as an artist, as a 6-year-old, I knew that colors on paper meant calm. And those are simple medicines that we get to give ourselves. And sometimes capitalism, all the time capitalism is trying to interrupt that and make a buck off something that is just supposed to be grounding you, and supposed to be allowing you to metabolize your day. And I think recreating a sacredness with you and you, and allowing yourself to be witnessed by you. Like, you're the best audience. 10 out of 10. I want me in the front row, honey, because I got the best critique. I got the good energy. Like, you feel me? And I think that's what I've been trying to harness this pandemic, in the midst of knowing that like all my gigs are canceled and all my tours are canceled. I put out this album in a year when I knew that I wasn't going to be able to show it. And there's a grief there, and I needed my album to actually help me process that grief. Like, I needed the music, and I needed the poetry to help me move through what happened. So it's for you. It's for you.
Cool, awesome. Cedar, anything to add?
Yeah, so thank you for sharing those amazing words, NASRA. I think it's how you speak is so eloquent and it really resonates with my spirit. Yeah, so sorry, my squeaky chair. I just had a brain fart. Can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, the question is, as an artist, what advice do you have for other queer, trans, and two-spirit creatives struggling to navigate making art during this time?
I actually seen on Instagram one of the local queens here who expressed that they were having trouble because you literally have to be a whole team by your own self. Like, all of these queens learned how to edit their videos, choreograph, make set designs, kind of really capturing all of those different aspects of putting together a really fine production. And I found that I could definitely not do that on my own. And when they expressed that, they also did a call out, like, you know, they were able to reach out, which takes courage. And when they did that, I found it, when you're able to be vulnerable and reach out in that way, to me, that's true strength.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to acknowledge where you're at, you know, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, with how the pandemic affects you. I think is a way for a chance for a community to come together. And I know for a fact that I wouldn't have been able to create any of the productions or videos that you know, that whatever, like curated content without the help of community and reaching out to these different individuals who are able to help at like the drop of a dime. And all you really have to do is just like reach out a hand or something. And, and to me, I think there's love in that. And I think it's also important to pay attention to not only like loving those around you, but especially yourself, like afford yourself that compassion to be able to kind of take a step back if you need to as well, because my capacity as an artist was definitely limited, especially trying to make a living of like my 9 to 5, you know. And it really takes a lot of effort and time, energy to put your heart and soul into the work that you do. And you know, I'll admit it's a really great side hustle, but it's also like transformative to be able to become who you are meant to.
Yeah, that's amazing, Cedar. And thanks for mentioning like taking a break and rest, you know, and relying on your community, because that's, you know, productivity isn't, and making art isn't the most important thing all the time. Sometimes taking care of yourself and realizing that, you know, these are historical and really challenging times, and, you know, we have to be kind to ourselves. So I'm just going to remind everyone that if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A. I'm going to ask one more question from myself, and then hopefully we'll open it up to our lovely audience. So one more question from me, which I'm going to put in the chat very quickly. This is another pandemic question, but it's looking towards the future. So due to the pandemic, a lot of opportunities for artists have disappeared. Now that we are opening up, what do you hope for the future for arts and cultural spaces? This is a really challenging question, but I'm curious if anyone has any thoughts about, like, you know, more of a hopeful look.
As for me, one of the things that I appreciate I'm sorry, there's trains. For me, one of the things that I really appreciate about the pandemic has been how much programming is happening online, like this and like so many other things. I've been to more artist talks during the pandemic than I had been to in years, just because they're accessible. I don't actually have to leave my house, and I can watch them kind of on my own terms, like in a way that is manageable with my life. And that means a lot. And it means that even though I'm not physically present, I still feel really connected. Like I know what is happening, and like I really like that online, and I hope that still is possible for institutions to continue.
Yeah, definitely.
I can go next. So one thing for me pre-pandemic was also booking gigs in Muggle form as a model, fashion runway gigs on the national and international levels. So around the same time, there was a Two-Spirit call out for model to go do a fashion runway in New York. And that show just kept getting pushed back from like spring to fall. And finally, now that things are opening up with the inoculation rollout, I was chosen as one of 6 out of 100 applications to go and walk with a First Nations fashion designer in New York. So I actually haven't made that announcement yet. And I kind of just wanted to like book that flight first, right? So I guess this is that really moment of celebration, because there's the Indigenous Fashion Week in Toronto, and you know, drag queens are highly influenced by fashion, and they highly influence the fashion industry in return. So I think it's important to like androgyny it's the future of fashion, and I think being able to show that stepping into femininity on the runway, and you know that feeling when you're at the end of it. I was told by one of my elders to kind of search for that feeling by serving your community back home, and that's what I try to do, is fulfill the void in my heart that I've been missing, and this is what I've been. Sorry, I was just getting a little emotional there. And I lost my train of thought. However, I think in arts and culture, and with a lot of opportunities lost due to the pandemic, there is a lot to look forward to in the future. And I can't wait to keep sharing it to the world.
Yeah, definitely.
To you, NASRA.
Wow, we can't wait, Cedar. We can't wait. Woo! Congratulations. Your grandma's is screaming. Kokum's everywhere.
Yeah.
Wow. It's so exciting. And I want to uplift all of that. I want to uplift also Harley. The accessibility, it's the accessibility for me, honey. It is, because I think the pandemic has just shown all the gaps, every gap that exists, that keeps people from being with each other and keeps people from being able to access what is rightfully theirs, which is art and creative experience and community. I'm really excited to see how we all the lines start to get blurred between what we need as a society and what we need as a creative community, because people not coming to the show if they're not housed, if they're not fed, if they're not safe. And the pandemic has really aggravated those gaps and those spaces where people are just continuously falling through. And the artistic space is no different. And I think it is our divine responsibility and gift to be able to be tapped into people's hearts in the ways that we get to be as creatives. And hopefully we can start to advocate for each other in ways that don't just serve our clout or serve our ego as artists, which is a way, it's a path you can take. You can take pretty easy. They give you a stage and some lights, and it's very easy to forget why you have the gift that you have, like you were saying, Cedar, that it is for the balance of everybody. And I'm really excited for artists to be empowered in those ways, to feel like we have the power to make structural change and make it last, make it stick. Because I think this time has also shown how much people rely on art to get through the day, get through the day. Netflix, you're welcome.
Yeah, definitely. That's so true. And thank you so much for saying that. Yeah, it's art. Art is so important. It gets you through the day. I'm just going to check the Q&A. I don't have anything yet. I'm going to give it one more second. But this has just been a lovely chat. And, you know, we have about a couple more minutes. I don't think there's going to be a question from the audience. I think we're just so invested in this talk. But my last question is just like, we know, Cedar, you already mentioned this, like what's next? You're going to New York, going to be on the catwalk. But just quickly, what's next for everyone else? Or Cedar, if you have other things that you're working on, or you know, your social media handles, anything that you want people to know about to connect to you and your work.
I'll go next. Oh, okay. For me, well, I'm Harley.Morman on, I think, most social media. If you Google that, you'll be able to find me, because there's not very many. I am working on Let's Do the Time Warp Again, is still very much in progress. Like, I'm actively working on it, and that's like taking up a lot of my time in the fall. And I'm riding my bike a lot, or my trike, because it's a tricycle, around Lethbridge, which is really important for my mental health. Yeah, that is mostly what I'm working on. And I'm supposed to be finishing my PhD. That too.
Suppose.
Yeah. Hopefully it happens. Yeah, whatever.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I love that. I will be inshallah, who knows? Maybe it'll be on a stage, maybe it won't be. But next March, I will be presenting DNA Play, which now is, it was first shown at the Chinook Festival this year, 21, as a 8-minute video film of me just talking, and exploring movement and ritual and my relations through the body. And so I'm really excited to be sharing movement and film in a new way next year. So you can look out for that. You can also look out on my website. I'm actually going to be starting working with people, working with artists who are trying to develop a spiritual practice that works for them, and working with spiritual practitioners to develop creative practices that work for them. Book me one-on-one, we could talk. And that's a new lane, very new lane for me, something I've been doing for friends and family for a really long time, but am now ready to take to the masses. So if you want to talk about your feelings with me, we can do that. And all of that information is on my website, NASRA.ca.
Perfect. Cedar, take it away.
Speaking of websites, I actually just did a hard launch this past National Indigenous Peoples Day. You can find me at cedarboy.ca, which takes me in Muggle form as a model, and then as a drag queen, a Cedar T, and just combining really both aspects of who I am and collaborating with other local Indigenous artists. And so that's what I hope to do, is, apply for grants to continue to be able to do that by supporting other artists, by purchasing their designs, and then potentially, doing a feature show in high fashion Indigenous designs next year, perhaps.
That's amazing. We did end up having a last minute question from Facebook. So there's just one more quick question. And the question is, any good resources for new immigrant queer artists to Edmonton that you want to shout out? Maybe the Pride Center?
Yeah. Pride Center.
Us?
Dawn.
Well, I would say yes. Like, one of the things that we've been trying to do recently, and I'll have to check the links on this, is to have QT BIPOC artists let us know about them, their practice, their contact information, because we do often get requests through the Pride Center for people looking for talent. And we're more than willing to share that information with consent, and to be a conduit between artists and community to help the artists get some traction and get some work and get some coins.
Yeah, coins are so important. They
So
really
important.
are. Mhm,
Crucial.
definitely. Does anyone else have anything to add?
I'm like, it's terrible because I'm literally like, it's all the Instagram handles. Like they're flying through my head right now. But I know that it depends on, I guess, what kind of art, but there's so much. I think going through the Pride Center is gonna be a network to feed you out. You could also, if you feel comfortable, whoever that was, hit me up on Instagram and I can send you some links.
Okay, very cool. Thanks so much, NASRA. That's awesome. So I guess that wraps up our time. I have to say another huge heartfelt thank you to everyone. This is truly fantastic, and it's the highlight of my Pride Month. So thank you so much. And one thing I'll just add is we have a little survey. I think it will pop up in the chat, or maybe it will come via Zoom. But if you like this program, let us know. If you want us to improve things, let us know. We're open to feedback. So big thank you to everyone, and we'll say farewell. And, you know, come to the AGA. We're open nowadays. We're open Thursday to Sunday. Thursday, we're open 11 till 7, and the rest of the days we're open 11 till 5. Sidewalk Cinema with NASRA and Cedar T is on from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day. And you can check that out on the side of the building. Thank you again. Cheers. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride.
Hey, happy Pride.
365.
Happy Pride.